Good morning and welcome to Community Church and welcome to our Lenten Poetry and Organ series. I'm Andrew Galuska, the Director of Music and Fine Arts here, and I'm so happy that you took a little time today to reflect, to imagine, and to prepare for Easter. I will give you my famous speech, and this goes for you at home as well. Leave everything that happens outside these walls. This is a time to come together and be in this moment of spoken word and of music. So I look forward to our journey today, and I'm going to introduce Sean Sexton, who will introduce our poet. One other thing, folks at home, this doesn't go for you, but if you could please silence your phones, that would be wonderful. And thank you for being with us at Community Church this morning. Sean.
Good morning. Let me try that again. Good morning. Thank you all so much for coming. We have a wonderful poet from Blairsville, Georgia, and she is also here to conduct, and she's already done 3 teen writers workshops in our schools, and she's going to do 2 more, I think 2 or 3 more tomorrow at VBHS and maybe Sebastian. I'm not sure about that, but she is also conducting on Saturday. This is through the Laura Riding Jackson Foundation, with whom I always have 3 hats whenever I do anything. And one is for, my first big hat is for the community church. And then my next big hat is for the Laura Riding Jackson Foundation. And my third, I have kind of a beret for Warren Oblook's Center for Spiritual Care, Warren and Carol Ludwig, and he is here. And so you will see us all doing things together all the time. And we have a poetry weekend coming up in April, about mid-April, and so keep an eye out, because we're going to be doing things in the church in liaison as well. But she will be doing an adult writers workshop at the Writing Center on 14th, and if any of you are inclined, it's on our website, lrjf.org. You can sign up, and she's a wonderful facilitator in addition to being a wonderful poet. She resides in the Northeast Georgia mountains with her family. Her writing has been published in journals such as Appalachian Review, Poem, Split Rock Review, Southern Poetry Review, Still, the Journal, Poetry South, and 82 Review. Her photography has been published in A Rose in the World, Bloodroot, and New Southerner, and she is an assistant professor of English at Young Harris College. And she's recently become an administrator for downtown Blairsville, is that correct? Main Street Director. So as if she didn't have enough to do. And now she has poetry to read to us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here. I don't like to do preambles to my poems, so I'm just going to dive right in. This first one is for my friend Julia. Witness. At the rhododendron garden, she shows me her wrist, the pale white scar. Blooms bleed around us, red, white, pink. It's not muggy yet, but soon the air will grow heavy like the dark, descending so much that the blade or the gun, which she once shot out a window straight into the dark's heart, seems like a pleasant escape. But she didn't press hard enough, didn't turn the gun on herself. Now she sits next to me on this wooden bench with our lunch of peanut butter, grapes, and chips. She tells me her pain to witness, and I and the rhododendron lean in to listen. On the discovery of aspirin, could it have been a 3-day headache, the kind with the relentless throb and slam of the sledgehammer, the sick roll of the eyes, the ache in the base of the neck, that drove someone into the woods shrieking in 2 parts pain, 1 part delirium, just mad enough to rip off slender leaves and shove them into his mouth, the bitter taste bringing relief not long after? Or was it the midwife, helpless against the feverish flesh and moan of the laboring woman, who ran into the dusk, tearing bark from a tree while reciting a prayer in some unknown language, later helping the baby make its way into the world as the mother's skin cooled and she wept softly like a willow bending in the breeze. The shape of love. Mother was beautiful until she was not. It was the 70s. I don't think it was the brown polka dot polyester dress. It was instead my exit from Eden, waking into reality. I saw Mother's strong jaw, her determined cheekbones, but there was a violent halo of sun around her face, pock-marked skin, the smell of coffee breath, scream cries of a new brother. I hid that day in a large brown box that came from Babushka. I hid, and the parishioners in that small town looked, searching. I'm asleep in the box, the smell of packing tape and grandma's house. Love is distant and comes in the shape of a cube. You have to unwrap it. Sometimes you have to use a knife or sharp scissors to cut through the tape and string. Be careful. The blade will surely slip. For that time when I may no longer recall myself, I keep my onions in a bowl marked fruit. My default is to leave a drawer open. I share my sink with a speck of a spider and refuse to wash it down. The art of napping has always escaped me. I prefer Audubon to Betty Crocker. When I visit the park, I opt for the skate court over the basketball court. A phone ring scares me as much as a fire alarm. I misplace my bras, which I rarely wash. I don't buy white. I keep a Bible on the bookshelf, but never open it. grocery list. When mother visits, she writes a grocery list. Her neat script and cheerful curves, but bold in its weight, for on the sheet underneath is a shadow of all she has written. Not just olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, the kind her new friend from New York, who she met at church while I was sleeping, uses in her own pasta salad, the one with walnuts. This is the kind of olive oil I need. I may not know this. I may not know to make a list for groceries, or would forget to buy the brand her new friend uses. So she has underlined the name right next to the words extra virgin on my grocery list in my kitchen. The way it is. You stand in line at CVS in shoes, pinching your feet after 8 hours. Everyone else's prescription is there but yours. You spend $68 for groceries, dodge puppy shit baking in the gravel drive, lug in milk, cereal, ground beef. Above, the sky is grayish blue. The sky is gray. The sky is blue. You fill a mason jar with a zinnia, purple wildflowers whose name you do not know, and a fern picked down by the pond beside the carpet of green moss, where, whenever you pass, you sit, remove your shoes, and reverently rub the soles of your feet. Retinitis. Grandfather Palicki stared at the sun, told it would strengthen his eyes. As a child, he hid his eyes as his father chased his mother around the kitchen table with a butcher's knife. When I visited him in Nanny P in Pearl River, New York, he'd sneak religious tracts into my suitcase. He broke Nanny's heart by leaving the Methodist Church for the Radio Church of God, which opened his blue eyes to the lies of vaccinations, the scam of fluoride. Legally blind, he taught me to drive in his burnt orange work truck, gear shift on the column. His breath smelled of St. Polly's girl, and he kept beer in the attic until they brought it down to the fridge. Before I was of age, he introduced me to anisette. The licorice-like liqueur burned my nose and throat. He couldn't see the cigarette butts my husband tossed in the kitchen trash, but he did smell them and demanded they be thrown elsewhere. I never understood Grandpa P. I was somewhat frightened of him until one visit I witnessed him holding my daughter. Both of them scooted close to the small TV, watching Jimmy stir in his orchestra, Grandpa's foot tapping to the polka music, my daughter in his lap, nibbling a cookie. caretaker. He says he's in his 60s, his body granite. He has the stance of a young man who'll never grow a midlife softness. Jeans, work boots, his shirt unbuttoned low, the edges of his cut-off sleeves sewn as not to fray. A gold cross hangs against his brown chest. He leans against the railing of the deck he built this year. Feet crossed, arms crossed. He looks me in the eye when he speaks. He's been on this mountain since he was 10. His daddy, the caretaker first, now him. When the college got the land, he came with it. Hell, who else knows where the water lines are, the gas lines? Anyway, the only map is in the coarseness of his hands. He checks on me just short of noon with a loud knock. I'm busy, but he will appear later, his white sideburns, wings under his Chevy hat. The tattoo I didn't see yesterday, now evident. Right bicep, a cross, faded red. He never says her name, but he tells me how he cared for his wife. Pancreatic cancer. Doctor got it wrong, thought it was her stomach, and then it was too late. How she refused him when he said she needed a hospital bed. They don't make them for two. So he didn't get one until he had to, until he was afraid she would break when he lifted her. He moved his bureau and gun cabinet out of the bedroom, pushed his bed as close to hers as he could. He says he never wants to feel that kind of pain again. We look across the ridge. Below us, the steep drop-off where the leaves are 20 shades of green. Rumix aceticilla. And yes, that's a Latinate name, and I may be mispronouncing it. No thought was given to what it really was. Poisonous or not, Allison just called it sour grass, plucked the leggy plant with its reddish top, sucked it like a straw, the opposite of honeysuckle, bitter like olive brine. My mouth watered. I liked it. That summer, we ransacked it from pasture, backyard, roadside ditch, far from discriminate. It flourished in that Piedmont town where granite headstones and mausoleums were always on display. Here in the mountains, I rarely see it. I research it. Red dock, sour dock, common sheep sorrel, just 3 of its many names. Edible, with a love of acidic soil, host to the American copper, to young girls who saunter outdoors, brave enough to eat weeds. Greasy Creek. The house was built years ago with large, smooth stones from the creek that snaked through a patch of river cane. So much energy went into the outside that the floor joists gave way long before they should have. For 3 months, I lived there with Jay and C, man and wife. My upstairs room, a windowed alcove with racks of clothes and a transistor radio. No cells, no TV. For entertainment, we had skunkweed, a porch swing, and books. Once a month, the pump broke, leaving us grimy and irritable. I earned my keep by pulling lettuce, spinach, squash, cooking biscuits from scratch. Me with my silly makeup bag and hair dryer. C with her clear skin and braided mane. We sat on the porch, talked about building a greenhouse, which never got further than a dark womb in the earth. On weekends, people appeared, C's brothers and sisters, or E, the neighbor with the yard of cars. He was 50, yet had the body of a knife-carrying teen. His wife, pregnant and smoking, silent. On Sundays, after everyone wandered off, C opened the windows until the sun danced over the scratched wood, her voice filling the room. I followed her to the center of myself, oblivious to the sinking floor, the wasp nesting in the corner of the ceiling. couple more. I can't say this one. So Angeliana. Today the light is holy, dancing across the window slats, across the couch and throw rug. 1,000 dusty universes in a single ray. I stand mesmerized in the kitchen, looking out into the yard. If only my stinging mug of coffee were the same pink as the blooms of the Japanese magnolia. I long to merge into the gold. It is so evident in this moment that there is only the now. Extended like the light, the magnolia knows this, its 1,000-petaled tongues arched skyward. So this atmosphere in ecological systems is very different than where I am. So I want you to close your eyes and go with me to my home in Appalachia, where it was like 40 degrees when I flew in to 80 here. But we will have one more cold snap, even though it's March. Even so, this is how I know that spring has arrived. So close your eyes and be there with me. Dogwood winter. Ants raid the bath, wasps claim the washroom, even as the cool of winter looms. The forsythia sings against a chorus of green, yet the hue of winter looms. The bunting's a blur of vibrant blue, offsetting winter's gray loom. Calves nurse in the open field, chilled as the nip of winter looms. Blood buds of azaleas burst forth, even though winter looms. The creek hums a rain-filled song, oblivious to the winter that looms. Rosemary, thyme, and sage grow in the sunroom, even as winter looms. So I'd like to close with this one. My daughter just turned 25, and she's up at UVA, and this is for her. Shore. We walk down by the water. She needs no help identifying tracks on the sand. Dog, deer, horse. Who is she? This young image of myself, the strong jaw, the Eastern European bones. This girl I once carried in my body. Breach at 9 months, cut out of me on a cold March morning. I remember asking to see the placenta, the life force, which had been plopped into a thin plastic bin. It was liver colored with smooth edges. 11 years later is now. We find a tiny springhead in the sand and place our fingers in the center, bottomless, full of life.
you did great job.
So thank you all for coming. And next week, Lawrence Hetrick, another person in Georgia. He's from Atlanta, and actually he's mostly from Florida. And we met in Gainesville. He was started the poetry part of the creative writing program there at UF. So anyway, thank you so much for being here. What a treat. What a treat to have you here. And what a treat to have you, Rosemary. And, well, him, sort of a treat. Okay, thank you.